So, we got a lot to talk about today. There's a bunch of interesting things happening in the stock market, and I know what you're thinking, Dario. What the fuck are you going to talk about the stock market? Well, it's because it involves GameStop, which it's a video game retailer. It involves a bunch of hilarity, a bunch of insanity, and most importantly, and this is what I really want to talk about, censorship, which, as you know, I've complained about a lot, and I mean a lot, and I think it's going to get worse. So, let's get into it. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
So, like I said, this one's going to be a little bit complicated and just, to be honest, straightforward. I'm not really going to go give you advice about what to do or what you shouldn't do with stocks or your money or anything like that. I'm just kind of give you the dumbed down, really quick version of what happened. But before I get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. I'm also streaming right now on YouTube and on Twitch at Super Dario World. If you want to check out my new background, I feel like it's missing something, probably like up here. Like I need to add something there. I'm not sure what. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll just move this logo up there. I don't know. It seems dumb. Anyway, I'll think of something. But yeah, you can join me there. Like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. It really helps out. I also forgot to set up chat again. So whoops, fixing that right now. And if you want to just check out the video afterwards, it'll be loaded on YouTube at Super Dario World. Again, like, subscribe. Really helps me out. Let's get into this. So, because it's kind of a complicated one. All right. So, where to begin? All right. So, I think I should begin with a disclaimer. First off, I am not a money guy. I'm not a stocks guy. I'm not a Wall Street guy. I dabble a little bit. I own some stocks and I understand the basics of how it works, but I would never consider myself an expert. So, do not take this in any way, shape, or form as financial advice. In fact, I would highly recommend you don't listen to me in that respect. I have a very bad tendency of spending money as soon as I have it. So to me, the best way to to protect my savings and stuff like that is if I never get it. So I found a few apps that, well, first off, like with your 401k and stuff, I make sure that they take away as much as they can from my paycheck, because if I have it, I'm going to spend it on something stupid. Now, the way that I justify that is because I bought a collectible and it's going to, raise in value. And that way I'm kind of like a way of investing, but I'm never planning on selling it. So it's an issue. All right. So I'm not saying, again, full disclosure, don't listen to me. I'm just going to tell you what happened. This is not advice. Just going to tell you what happened. So over the last few days, there was a Reddit page called Wall Street Bets, and basically they were trying to take down short sell options for major Wall Street hedge funds. So basically, again, the dumbed down version is there are these hedge funds that bet against certain stocks that are going to basically decrease in value. So basically, you're betting against the economy, you're betting against companies. There was a group on Reddit that didn't like that for several reasons, because they were saying, hey, you're artificially lowering the price of a stock that we think should be higher, and so we're going to fuck with you guys. This is all trolling. This is all 100% trolling. That's where it came from. Well, you could argue that it came from you could argue misplaced or properly placed anger from the people at, what was it, the Occupy Wall Street, from the people from the Tea Party, and they kind of united, and it's like, what, fuck you guys. But basically, it's all because of GameStop, or GameStop is the major piece, is the centerpiece of this particular stock, and that's why this is called the GameStop Revolution. So, GameStop, there's a bunch of experts online that were saying, on this Reddit thread called Wall Street Bets, that were saying that GameStop, the stock was very underpriced. I believe it was like $5. And so they believed that it should be up to $10 because we just got two major console releases. We got the PS5 and we got the Xbox Series X. And usually when the release of a new console, the stock price should be up. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But they believe that there's hedge funds that were attacking GameStop to artificially lower its value. And by artificially lowering its value, they would make money betting against it. So how does short selling work? Basically, I rent a stock from you, and let's say your stock is worth $10. So I rent it from you, and I'm like, hey, I'll give you $1 to rent your stock for a month. So I rent your stock for a month, and it's valued at $10. So I sell it at $10, and then a month later, when I have to give it back, the stock is actually not worth $10 anymore. It dropped. It's worth $3 now. So I buy back that stock at $3. I give it back to you because I borrowed a stock. I borrowed a stock for a month. I'm giving you back a stock, which it only cost me $3 plus the dollar that I'm paying you to rent it. So basically, out of that transaction, I end up making $6. That's kind of how short selling works. And the reason why people do this is because it's a way of them gauging, or why people do this is people saying like, hey, you know what? I think that company is overvalued. I think the value is going to go down, so I'm going to bet against it. Now, that's the dumbed down version of how it works, or at least the dumbed down version that this dumb person understands it. Anyway, so that's how that works. And so what a lot of people are complaining about is they were saying that no, there's a bunch of people in these hedge funds that are going to the media and they're spreading panic, and they want people to sell the GameStop stock when it shouldn't be undervalued. It should be going up. So they're artificially bringing it down. So that pissed them off. And so they decided, you know what? We're going to start buying a whole bunch of stock at GameStop just to fuck with you guys. Because if you buy a stock, well, if I rent your stock and it's worth $10, right? $10, I rent it from you, and I sell it at $10, and the stock goes up. Let's say it goes up from $10 to $100. That means that I still have to give you the stock back at the end of the month because I borrowed it. So I have to pay $100 to give you back that to return that stock. So basically, I would lose $91, one for renting the stock, and $90 that I have to buy back that particular stock. So that's what they started to do. And so the stock for GameStop went from $5 to, like, I think at its height it went up to $400. So a lot of people made a buttload of money, and the hedge funds lost billions. And I mean billions. And now you could argue whether this is, well, so if they're losing billions. It all depends. At the end of the day, here's the key. As long as you don't sell, you don't lose anything. But it could go either way. And so a lot of people found this really funny, and they started going into it. And so I'm not going to go into the semantics of whether this is right or wrong. This is a right or wrong way to treat the market. The point is that's what happened. And it's not illegal. There's a lot of people are saying that maybe it's collusion. It's not collusion, because they were saying we're going to do this to fuck with those guys. So they're not doing it to make money. A lot of people did make a lot of money. A lot of people lost a lot of money. But mostly it's because, hey, let's go fuck with those guys. And as far as I know, that's not collusion. Anyway, or it's not illegal. It's a prank. And they're trolling you guys. So here's the thing. Like I said, do whatever you want. You could still probably go in. Right now it's like $300. Supposedly it's going to go higher. Or it's going to maintain, but this is a bubble that's eventually going to burst. And the irony of it is that if you're the hedge fund, the only way that you can actually dig yourself out of it is, again, short selling, because you know it's a bubble and it's going to burst. But if the people want to keep fucking with you, they just keep holding on to the stocks until you eventually implode and you lose all your money. I don't know how this is going to go, but it's going to be pretty interesting. That's why mostly I've tried to stay a little bit out of it. I bought a little bit just so that I could follow along and to actually understand the numbers and actually have a little bit of stake of the game. But it's kind of messy. And by kind of messy, I mean really messy. And it's going to get wild. Now, here's why I care about this. The interesting thing to me that came out of this is the whole censorship issue. Now, there is an app, and well, there's actually multiple apps. The one that's probably the biggest at fault here right now is called Robinhood. Robinhood is an app where you can, well, I guess I could put like a visual here. Yeah. So Robinhood is an app that basically allows you to buy and sell stock, right? And it supposedly is like a democratic way of selling stock. It's power to the people. And so this app blocked you from being able to buy stock. Now, the way stock works is basically the more you buy, the higher the higher its value goes. The more you sell, the more people sell, the lower its value is. So there's an incentive. I'll just take this away because it's kind of annoying me. So there's an incentive for buying and there's an incentive for selling. It depends on how you think it's going to go. But basically, that's it. Buy makes the value go up. Sell makes the value go down. Pretty much like it's basic economics. It's like rule of supply and demand, basic stuff. So what this app did is that it blocked people's ability to buy more stock in particular stocks. I believe it was AMC, Nokia, and GameStop. So if you can't buy, if regular people can't buy, what does that mean? That means that the value is going to plummet, right? Because if you can only sell, the value is going to go down. However, the hedge funds still have the ability to buy. So they can still buy in, try to ride the wave, and still keep buying in for the short selling, and that's where you're screwing the little guy over, because the little guy is like, holy shit, we were making a buttload of money here, it was going up, and all of a sudden there's like a sharp decline, and I mean very sharp, and it's because people couldn't buy anymore. And so people naturally, if you can only sell, you panic and you see it go down, everybody starts selling, and that's kind of how that went down. So that to me seems illegal, because they made an argument that no, we're not lending you money to buy, you have to use your own money, blah blah. But I was using my own money from my own bank account, and it was blocked. I was not able to do it. So to me, that's like, that seems kind of illegal. That seems kind of legal. So you're saying that certain people have the ability to still do this, but normal people don't. And also, it turns out that the hedge fund that's losing billions of dollars gives you like 40% of your earnings per year. It seems a little bit shady. Again, not my area of expertise, so I'm not gonna get too deep into it. I'm gonna stick to the censorship thing. What's the next thing that happened? Like I said, all this came from a Reddit thread called Wall Street Bets, and like most Reddit threads, it's basically a bunch of people on the internet talking about dumb stuff. But here, particularly, they're talking about stocks. And these, I believe they're called meme stocks. That's how they're calling it. It's a bunch of dudes who make memes about stocks. Here's where everything started. And now they tried to, first off, they shut down the server for their Discord. And Discord is basically like a giant chat room. And they are trying, I'm not sure if they were successful yet. At least the last time I checked, I believe they're not. But they're trying to break down the Reddit thread. So basically, they don't want the plebs to be talking about this anymore. The plebs have finally figured out a way to make money in their own game, and they don't like it. So they're like, oh man, we got to stop these guys, because apparently decentralization is not a good thing for us. Now, I think the decentralizing stuff is a pretty good thing. What does decentralization means? Basically, it means that instead of having to go one place to do things, you can go to 100 places to do things. The perfect example is Wall Street. Before, you had to go to a stockbroker. You have to, in order to get stocks and stuff like that, you have to go to a particular place. You have to go to Wall Street. Now, anybody, billions of people around the world can buy stocks on their phone. So it's decentralized. And so, also imagine kind of like government in a way. Like there's the presidency in Washington, but there's little pieces of government that govern each particular area that you're in. Like I'm in San Diego, there's a mayor of San Diego, there's a mayor of El Cajon. So basically you can cater stuff to a particular area, and you're not consolidating power in one single area. That's what decentralization means. And so the issue here is that the powers that be, or the way that a lot of people look at this, is that the powers that be at Wall Street, they're like, oh shit, we don't want all these little dudes to have this power because they're screwing us over. Now, I guess there's an argument for it, but also go fuck yourself, you know? It's a decentralization is the way of the future. You can't just have the power consolidated in one place, and you can't just be upset when somebody else figures out the rules for your games, and screws you over with it, because that's pretty much what happened, right? Now, there is a purpose for Wall Street. There's the purpose for the stock market, and it's a very important one. It's a very good one, and it's one of the reasons why America has been so successful. Now, that being said, what's happening here is still fucking hysterical. And the people who are getting hurt are people that most people tend to hate due to envy, or just because the government has bailed them out in the past after they've been very vicious sharks and cruel, heartless people. I don't care that much about that stuff. That's not what I'm going for. I'm going to stick straight to the censorship. So I think that, first off, it's wrong to block the ability to buy stocks just because it's unfavorable to you. To me, that honestly, that's going up to Congress. So members of Congress have sent a letter to the what is it? It's not Supreme Court. It's what do you call the Attorney General, demanding action. So, and this is a bipartisan thing. It's really weird. The left and the right kind of tend to agree with that this was fucked up. At least the populists. That will take certain action, and we will be seeing a lot more from that. But you'll probably won't hear that much from me because again, it's not my bag. I find it interesting. I find it for fun, but it's not really what I'm not really my bag. All right. So there's action being taken there. They are trying to bring down the subreddit. They already brought down the Discord, and they're trying to shut you up. All right. So to me, that's what I care about. The centralized power trying to shut down the competition. That's the thing that bugs me. That's the thing that I take issue with, and I particularly do not like it when we're talking about free speech. So, free speech, something that I've talked about a lot. And social media censorship has gotten wild over the last few weeks, and I mean insane. Now, I didn't really talk about it. I kind of wanted to because I can go on a rant about this for a while. But the reason why I did not go into it too much is because, you know what? I've complained about this. My position on this is perfectly clear. I could not be any clearer on what my position for free speech is. You have a right to be stupid. You have a right to say whatever you want as long as what you're saying does not instigate, is not illegal, meaning you're not instigating, you're not calling for harm for a particular person. I'm okay with it. You're allowed to say whatever you want. It's a free country, man. I think that sunlight is the best disinfectant for bad ideas. If you have a bad idea, I'd like to hear it, and then I'll ask questions about it, and they'll fall apart by themselves. All you have to do is just keep poking holes on ideas, and eventually the good ideas beat out the bad. When you block ideas, when you say, no, you can't talk about this, basically the ideas don't go away. They go underground. So instead of fighting, let's say fighting a samurai one-on-one, straightforward, and honorable fight, now you're fighting a ninja. And ninjas are a lot scarier because you don't know where they're going to come from, and you can't sleep at night, and you basically created your own boogeyman. It's not a fun situation. So, my issue, again, is censorship. And actually, I have a quote here from Tyrion Lannister that I really like. For those of you who don't know who Tyrion Lannister is, he's a character from Game of Thrones. He was the imp. And there's a quote that I really like, and it's actually making the rounds right now. And the quote goes, "When you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say." And honestly, I think that's a perfect way of explaining. My stance on free speech. My stance on censorship. Censorship is a bad idea. Now, it's a free country. Do you have the right to say, I don't want to see that? Sure. So that's why you can block stuff. That's why if somebody's saying something you don't like, you can block them. I've never blocked anybody. I think it's a bad idea. I'd rather like keeping an eye. I like knowing where people are. So, especially the people I don't like. You know how they say you keep your enemies close? I don't know, you keep your friends close, you keep your enemies closer? Duh. And blocking them, guess what? You're fighting a ninja now. Anyway, so the thing that actually really clamped down is over the last few weeks, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, have been banned from social media, mainly conservatives and stuff like that, but also people on the left. So it's been a massive purge on Twitter, particularly. Also on Facebook, a bunch of groups they're being shut down. And there's really no explanation for it, and there's nothing you can do about it because who are you going to complain about? It's a weird situation now. A part of me hates it, and a part of me it's like, all right, fine. So the part of me that's all right, fine, is that it's a private company. You can do whatever you want. If they violated your rules and your rules are clear, all right, sure, you can do it. It's your own platform, whatever. The place that I have an issue with is that they did it without any warning, and the rules are not clear. So basically, it's like we're gonna get rid of you because we don't like you anymore. That's it. That's the main reason why, and I do not like that. I think that's a bad idea. I think that makes people very upset. Social media just basically like, oh, you're banned. They're like, but what did I do? What the fuck did I do? Well, what was the rules that I break? Can I fix them? Oh, it's like, oh, it's not something you did right now. You did it like 10 years ago. Like, but I mean, I could just change that. I could just edit it out. No, you're fucked. You're done. Something that was acceptable. I don't like people changing the rules on me. Something that was acceptable today, if may not be acceptable 10 years ago, but you got to judge people based on what they said in the context of the situation, right? Things are very different. Like, for example, cutting a man's heart open sounds like a bad thing, but if it's actually, like, if you're in surgery and it's a doctor that's cutting a heart open, then it's a good thing, right? Context matters. A knife to the heart is very different in a street alley than it is in a surgery room, right? Very different. Context matters. Anyway, so they started blocking a whole bunch of people. It seemed like it was mostly like And so the thing that I didn't hate, well, the thing that really grinds people's gears and that really makes people insane is when the rules are not clear and the rules are not being applied fairly. So you want to see somebody just like flip a table, like just go flat out insane and flip a table. It happens not when they lose. Let's say you're playing a game of chess and the other person just gets super pissed off and throws off the board. It usually doesn't happen when they lose. It happens when things are not fair, at least from their perspective. So let's say, for example, you and me, we're playing a game of chess, and we have a judge, and I have my pawn, and I move it like a queen, and you're like, hey, you can't do that, and the judge is like, that's fine, and you're like, all right, fine. So pawns can move as queens. So I grab so you grab your pawn, and you try to move it as a queen, and the judge says, you can't do that. In fact, you know what? You lose a point. Like, you lose that pawn completely. You'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, who the fuck is happening? This is not a fair game. This is not fun. Where the fuck are we even playing it? So, again, companies, they have a right to block whoever they want and all that stuff. The issues that it's not fair, the issues that you don't really, or it's not equitable. They're doing it more to one. They're applying the rules from one side instead of the other, and you don't know. It's not clear what the rules are per se. So let's say what's the term they use? Unfavorable language or unacceptable language. It's like, well, how about if you tell me exactly what that is? If you tell me you can't use the word but, then I won't be using the word but. All right? People have a tendency to adapt. If you're telling me I'm going to shut down your channel if you keep cussing, I'm going to be like, all right, fine, I'll stop cussing. I'll start saying BS. It's not that hard. This is BS, bro. It's not that hard. People adapt. But if you don't know what the rules are and you're punishing them when you were not clear about the rules and the rules are ambiguous so that you can use them however you want, whenever you want them, people get upset. So what is the solution? Well, to quote Bender here, I'm going to open up my own casino with blackjack and hookers. And that's what tended to happen. If you have a whole bunch of people that are blocked from a particular form of social media or a particular thing, what are they going to do? Well, there's a market for it. And the market always finds opportunities for people. And that's what happened. They started creating their own social media apps. One in particular, which is the one that we're going to talk about right now, which was Parler. Now, Parler is basically was called the conservative Twitter. And because of the thing that happened in the Capitol, what was it, January 6th? The attack that happened on the Capitol and all that stuff. Well, Parler doesn't exist anymore. Now, I know what you're thinking. What the fuck does one thing have to do with the other? Well, apparently, since there's a whole bunch of voices that the social media tech giants did, well, since Parler was being very successful, and this is kind of like the conspiracy stuff, because I actually talked about Parler before. The last time I talked about Parler, I talked about censorship. I talked about alternatives to social media because I was pissed off with Facebook. I was pissed off with Twitter. I did not like that there was censorship, that they were censoring the president. I did not like they were censoring members of the government because it's like, hey, guess what? We elected those people. Nobody elected you. And honestly, the rules did not seem fair. And they were blocking stories. I did not like it. I was very upset with stuff, mainly because not because of the side they were blocking, but the fact that they were blocking an elected official, any elected official. To me, it's like, go fuck yourselves. And so I started looking for alternatives. One of the alternatives that I found was Parler. And actually, Parler has a lot of really strict rules compared to Twitter. Like in Twitter, you can have porn up, and it could be like a minor. It's really weird. Like the rules for Twitter is a very disgusting place if you actually go deep into it. Anyway, so Parler started growing, and says, what happens if a bunch of people get blocked or banned from Twitter? Well, there's an alternative. And so what happens? Well, the alternative starts to grow and starts getting traction, and a lot of people start moving there. And what happens to this particular new app? It starts making money, getting successful, and giving a bunch of people, let's say, a new platform, a new voice. But the issue here is that we don't want those people to have a platform or a voice, right? Because we are the tech giants. We're supposed to control what you think and what you say, and so we want to censor them too. Unfortunately, you're not on our platform anymore, so we can't censor you. So what are we going to do? Well, they started basically not just trying to get Parler. Well, they started a campaign to get Parler banned from the app stores, meaning the Google Play stores, meaning the Apple Store, which is disgusting, but I guess it's cutthroat business, man. Like if you wanna have your app here, fine, but we're gonna make sure. Oh, by the way, the issue that I mentioned, the Capitol stuff, is because they started blaming Parlor because it has mostly conservative. Parlor was mostly like the conservative Twitter, and so they used Parlor to organize and all that stuff. So we need to shut them down. Now, I used Parlor a little bit. I didn't post anything ever, but I used it enough to try to understand it and open an account there just so that I could see what's up because like I said, I was looking for alternatives in social media. You can't make groups on Parlor. You can make groups on Facebook, and most people tend to organize on Facebook or on Twitter. So if you're going to try to shut somebody down based on them organizing and doing a bad thing or a thing that you don't like, well, you kind of have to look in the mirror, and then there's a very solid argument that Twitter and Facebook should have been shut down too. In fact, I would not have any issues if Twitter, Parler, and Facebook would have gotten shut down at the same time. I would have been like, all right, fine. If do an investigation, figure out who was at fault here, where everything happened, and we'll deal from and we'll go from there. But that's not what happened. They targeted one particular company and one particular company only. And that's where things start. That's where shit starts hitting the fan because it's starting to look kind of like collusion. So the big tech giants start attacking the app stores and say you can't have this thing on for people anymore. It's bad. It's evil. Blah blah blah. And then what happens? Amazon, who was hosting their server, decided, you know what, we can't have you anymore. So basically, imagine you have a business and you're renting and you're renting a space, and that day the landlord says you have 24 hours to leave, get the fuck out of here. That's basically a death blow to your business. A death blow. And 24-hour notice to get the fuck out, that is death blow to your business. And particularly if you're only a brick and mortar and that's the only way you can sell your stuff, well, if you're only a digital business and you can only sell your stuff digitally, you're fucked. So what does this mean? The market always finds a way to survive in a way, but the problem is that this company is pretty much dead. I don't think Parler's coming back. I don't see how it can come back. It was a very deadly blow, and it came from collusion from a whole bunch of tech giants. Now, as I mentioned a lot, tech giants, they're trying to silence you. You can't speak to each other on Reddit because you may cost us money, and the plebs are not allowed to make money. Only we're allowed to make money off the plebs. The plebs are not allowed to gather and talk and share ideas because they might be negative for us, and they might instigate stuff that's dangerous for us, even though there's no evidence that it happened there. We're gonna blame you for stuff that we're doing, but we're gonna use you as a scapegoat, and we're gonna destroy your ability to make business. We're gonna destroy your ability to make money. So we're gonna make it impossible for you to survive on our platforms, and we're gonna destroy the platforms that you're trying to make. I don't know about you guys, but this is starting to look like a dystopia to me. It's let's just say kind of disgusting, and I don't like that at all. So what's the solution here? Other app stores, other companies have decided to decentralize. Now, there was other companies that they tried to shut down before. I believe it was like Gab. Gab is another app, another social media platform, and they already had their own server, so they couldn't shut them down. They did it the hard way, but now they're independent, so they can't shut them down. Now, there's another app, another social media app. Let me just double check the name here. It's called PocketNet. And PocketNet is decentralized, meaning that instead of having one supercomputer running everything, it's got a whole bunch of different computers all around the world and a bunch of different administrators all around the world trying to keep these things open. And the promise that they're giving the user, the guarantee, is that they will never get shut down. And to me, I think that's the way of the future. That's the way things go. Right now, if I'm renting, as any real estate thing, if you're renting out office space, in your lease, you want to make sure that it says that, hey, you can't kick me out for whatever reason. There have to be specific reasons why you can kick me out from here, very specific ones. And you have to give me a certain amount of notice. That way my business doesn't go under, right? I think that's going to be the way of the future when you're trying to find a web service to host. Like, for example, I'm eventually going to get a website probably for this show, hopefully if it keeps growing the way it's growing and it's going fine. I'm eventually going to have to build my own website. Ask me if I'm ever going to use Amazon's web services. No, never. I'm going to find somebody who unless in the contract it says you can't shut down my fucking servers, or you can't shut down you can't stop hosting me on a whim. That it will have to be in writing, and if it happens, I'm going to sue the ever-living shit out of them. So the thing that's going to happen right now, or the thing that's going to be a major change, is if I had to start my own hosting services, if I had the money for it, I would guarantee, that would be my selling point. It's like, hey, I'm never going to shut you down. Hey, I'm never going to shut you down. Hey, I'm never going to shut you down. Like, you can do whatever you want out there. And I think that's the way of the future. I think that's what companies are going to have to do, because I would not put my money, I would not risk it on somebody else having the ability to shut me down. Now, the ideal thing you want to do is create your own stuff, but that's extremely expensive. So probably when you're starting out, maybe you'll go for the company that guarantees you to keep stuff, that they will never shut you down. But it's all very gross, very disgusting forms of censorship, and it's going to get worse because, like I said, very powerful people are losing billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. You think they want the plebs to have this power? Nah. You think they want them to be able to talk to themselves? Nah. They're realizing the decentralization is a bad thing, so they're going to fight it. Well, it's a bad thing for them. I like decentralization. I think it's better. I think it's a lot more convenient. I think it's smarter, and I think it's the way of the future. So they're going to fight it with tooth and nail, because the more decentralized the power is, the less power they have to control. And it's always, always, always all about the Benjamins. So they're going to, if they're losing power, that means that they're losing money, and they will go to extreme lengths to, let's say, try to protect it and to shut you the fuck up, because they don't want you talking. They don't want you sharing ideas. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff about, you know, civilizations that didn't make it, or why they were so primitive, and why you know why the Dark Ages were considered the Dark Ages? Because people forgot a bunch of knowledge because they didn't know how to read. You know, before, you know, you write stuff down, and it's like, oh, well, the way that we learn stuff now is because it's written down from people from the past, and it's like, okay, well, this is how that works, and I can just find information from the past. You know, I can read it online, I can read it on a book. In the Dark Ages, people did not know how to read and write because they were busy trying to survive, and so a bunch of knowledge got lost. And so that's kind of what they want to do. They want you to forget stuff. They want you to forget. And here's the thing. A good idea, never going to go away. Just because you don't like it, doesn't mean it's going to go away. In fact, it's probably going to get bigger. Probably. Like right now, there's real consequences for stupid actions. Like Robinhood, right now, like I said, Robinhood from the beginning, that they blocked the ability to buy more stocks. You know what happened? A bunch of people dumped. They first off, they gave Robinhood a bunch of 1-star reviews. There's a class action lawsuit against them, and they're dropping the app. Now, I had Robinhood for a day because I wanted to see what the hell was going on, and for some reason the app that I used could not buy the GameStop app, so I switched to Robinhood. I had it for a day, and I'm already dropping it because of this. I do not want to be in business with people who do business this way, right? There's rules. You follow the rules and you explain them from the beginning, and it's fine. People in general, people don't like getting screwed over if it's their decision and they agree to it. Let's say, for example, if they give you, let's say in football, you know, you can get a penalty. If you take a risk on a play and you're like, it could be considered, I don't know, blocking or whatever. I don't know. That's probably a better example because that's super objective. I need to do something that's very specific. Let's say breaking the law. So let's say you want to sell drugs, and drugs are illegal. By the way, don't sell drugs. And drugs are illegal where you live. You can be like, hey, I want to sell drugs. I want to be a drug dealer. I want to make money because it's easy money. And so you go out and you start selling drugs and you start making money, and all of a sudden the cops catch you. And you're like, shit, man, you got me, and you go to jail. Most of the people in jail, they're not like, oh man, fuck those guys. They caught me, whatever. Most of them are like, yeah, well, I was selling drugs. I was kind of doing something illegal. I took a risk. I made money, whatever. Like, it's funny, but most of those people accept that accept the fact that they're eventually going to go to jail. It's kind of part of it, and that's kind of part of the prison gang stuff. It's interesting stuff. Maybe I'll get into it one day. Point is, give people the opportunity to make decisions for themselves. Don't try to block them. Don't try to do business this very dirty, very disgusting way where you're screwing people over only to what? For money? Honestly, Robinhood destroyed the reputation. They might have destroyed their company, and they might go to jail over this just because they don't like the plebs making money. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating. It's not probably just that. They were probably just in desperation. They're trying to save their own company. But in the end, usually making a move out of desperation is not a good idea because you end up knocking over a domino. Like, have you ever knocked something over and you try to pick it up, and you end up knocking down more stuff, and you're trying to stop it, and it keeps getting worse? I imagine the scene from Hercules, one of the first scenes from Hercules when he's still a teenager, and he knocks over a pillar, and he's trying to stop it, and for trying to stop it, he ends up knocking up over it. Basically like that. That's usually what happens. Moves out of desperation end up exploding in your face, and now you might have ended up destroying your company and going to jail. Knee-jerk reactions are bad, and unfortunately, I think the knee-jerk reaction to this will be more censorship. They will try to shut down more servers, they will try to shut down more platforms, they will try to shut down more speech because it's not acceptable, and they will start labeling you in very unspecific ways. Every single thing that they don't like, they will label it under something that they don't like, and they will ban you for it. So it'll be like, let's say, hate speech. You know how hate speech is not specific? I can hate a lot of things, but it's only hateful if the people in if the people in power hate it. So an argument I always make to people is like, let's say for example, I'm arguing for free speech, and they're like, no, well, there's certain things that you can't say about it. Like pick one, and it's like, let's say, well, you shouldn't be able to talk about flat earthers, right? All right, so you can't talk about flat earthers should not be allowed to speak because that's stupid, and they're just making people stupid, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so you're saying that the government should be allowed to be like, hey, you can't talk about that, we're blocking it. He's like, yes. All right. So if I get into power and I say you can't talk about the round earth, you can only talk about the flat earth because that's the truth, and I'm the one in power, and you go to jail for saying that flat earth is not real, how would you feel? He's like, well, that's stupid, that's BS. Like, exactly. Just because you're in power doesn't mean that you're right. The way that you prove that you're right is by having a better argument, is by having a better idea, and for having an idea that you can poke less amount of holes in it. And how do you do that? By discussing them. Conversation. No censorship. Censorship's a bad idea. People have the right to be stupid. They have the right to be stupid. They have the right to express stupid ideas. As a person who pretty much every day, says something stupid online and puts it up, I have to defend it because that's what I believe. Now, sometimes people are making jokes. Sometimes there are actually people who are actually stupid. And it's their right. You have the right to be stupid. You have the right to say stupid things. You have the right to believe stupid things. It's your right. To me, as long as you don't act in a way that's violent or directly harmful against somebody else or with malice, all right, go ahead. Do what you do. Say what you say. Whatever. Deal with the consequences of it later, because you also have to accept the consequences of speech. Let's say, for example, if you call your boss a dick to their face, you could face you have to face the consequences that you might get fired. Now, do you have the right to call your boss a dick? Sure. Does he have the right to fire you afterwards? Sure. It's a consequence. But they should not be saying like, hey, we should send you to jail for it, or like, hey, we should block you from social media. It is a death blow to a lot of companies for them to be blocked on social media. And that's the threat that they have right now. And now, imagine, I need you to understand how big this threat is. They could block you from your ability of making money. They can destroy your business. They can shut down your server. They can shut down your speech. They can block you from having bank accounts. There's people who can't have certain bank accounts. There's people who can't have credit cards. This is going to lead to parallel economies. All right? Honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing because it could, well, it is a bad thing because you want to at least have like a certain, consensus of how the economy is going. But if you create okay, I don't think it's going to be two separate economies, because if one economy is like, hey, we're open, you can come be whoever you are, be whatever you want to be. If you just agree on freedom, you can just be cool and hang out with us. And the other one is like, no, fuck those guys. Only these people can be here, and only people who don't believe this, blah, blah. Then one business is going to grow and one's not going to grow, and one is eventually going to destroy the other. It all depends on how they retaliate, I guess. And the retaliation is what's the scary part. And I believe that we are in the midst of seeing that retaliation. They do not want the competition. They do not want the plebs to grow. They do not want the plebs to have the power. They don't want the decentralization of power. And I think that will be the next move. That will be the interesting thing about this particular year. Maybe the next few years. Because a lot of people have realized, you know what? Fuck you guys. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. You don't deserve my money. You don't deserve anything. I don't trust you. You will stab me in the back in a second for a buck. Or for your ideology. And go fuck yourself. There should be a consensus of we can do business together even if we don't like each other. Because usually business, making a good deal, means that you come a little bit ahead, I come out a little bit ahead, everybody's good. Now it's like, you know what? I don't care if I'm shooting myself in the fucking leg. I don't want you to do well. I want you to die. It's like, dude, like, think about this for a second. Twitter blocking users. Now, Twitter kind of was dying, and the reason why it got revitalized was because of Trump, and Trump could not stop tweeting, and everybody just, had a bunch of reply guys out of it. And so the reason why Twitter was still alive is because of Trump. And it's the one thing that I'll never forgive him, ever. That's the worst thing he's ever done. Keep Twitter alive. I hate Twitter. Anyway, so Twitter blocks out its user base, right? Now, what does that mean? If you block out the people who use you, that means that you're going to be losing money, right? So they are actively shooting themselves in the foot. They're like, I don't care. I'll destroy my fucking company to destroy you. It's like Bruce Willis in Die Hard and Die Hard 4, like yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, where he shoots himself to bring the other guy down. The other thing is like, yeah, you're not killing the other guy. There's other options. Unless they destroy the other options and they go nuclear on them. But unfortunately for them, guess what? Cat's out of the bag, the genie's out of the bottle. We already know how this works. We know how to make other servers. We know how to decentralize stuff. We already know. It's going to take longer. Sure, it's going to be a slower process. But honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing. Because the slower you build something, the stronger the foundations, the better it is. And slowly but surely, I think the second economy, if this is the way it's going to go, if people can have credit, you think I'm going to open up a credit card with a bank that I know might block me any second? Would you open up a credit card with a bank who's like, hey, we might block you because we don't like what you have to say, or what you're saying is not acceptable today? Like, fuck you. I'm not. Are you crazy? You think I'm going to open up my business with you guys if you can shut me down any second and you're not applying this fair for everybody? Fuck you guys. No. So I think that's the way it's going to go. And it's going to be rough because we either have extremely harsh censorship ahead, or it'll be slowly but surely finding new and better alternatives to this stuff. And, the tech bros and all of them will slowly start to die, because this is what happens. This is what happens when you screw people over. You die. You go the way to the dodo, you go the way of Blockbuster, you eventually become obsolete, and people don't trust you. And honestly, that's the most important thing any company has, any business has, is faith from their clients, faith from the user base. If I can't trust you, I'm not doing business with you. I don't care. You might give me the best deal in the world. I will not be in business with you because I cannot be sure that you won't screw me over. Unless the only way that I might be in business with you is that it's a deal that's extremely favorable to me, and I have it in writing, guaranteed that you will not screw me over in any way, shape, or form. So I think most people would rather go the easier route. I don't want to have this in the back of my mind. I don't have to worry that the stocks that I bought today for fun will be blocked, and the only option that I have is selling them and losing money. I don't think people want that. I know that I don't want it. I'd rather be with somebody I trust. And so losing trust, you can't get that back. That's it. Usually when couples cheat, that's it. That's the end. You can't buy that trust back. You can't get that trust back. So I think they're gonna fight it tooth and nail, and it's billion-dollar companies. They're massive corporations. They will put up a good fight, and they will probably go after the rights of free speech, and they will try to use that as a weapon to shut us down. But genie's out of the bottle, man. Genie's out of the bottle, and I think it's a good thing. And so, like I said, it should be an interesting year. There should be a lot of very interesting developments in this area. I hope things end up going the way that I think they're gonna go, because there's pretty much a consensus in by most people. They're like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's better if you get the fuck out of my way. So we'll see how it goes. Well, like I said, it's all speculations. I'm not an expert at a lot of stuff that I talked about. I just, trying to read the writing on the wall, trying to notice the patterns and all that stuff. But most important thing, and again, I'll just leave you with the Tyrion Lannister quote right here. When you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. Every single time you hear that they want to shut somebody down, they want to shut down a business, they want to shut down somebody's voice, they want to shut down social media, they want to censor somebody, remember that. They're afraid of the idea. They're afraid of you. They don't want you to have that power. It's a direct attack on that. Free speech is a very important thing, because you give people the opportunity to express an idea, to ask questions, and you know what, to maybe make a fool out of themselves. But it's let's just say it's a very gross thing, and I don't like it when they try to shut them down, and and particularly when they're attacking somebody's businesses, because you want to see somebody go crazy, go after their livelihoods, go after their families, go after their rights. It doesn't end up in a good way, historically speaking. But I'll leave it there. As always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Streaming on YouTube and on Twitch. Please like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. Videos on YouTube at Super Dario World. Subscribe there too. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time.